Hi, my name is Angie. Welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, I am a mom to 4. I love to homeschool, I love to read good books, and I love to talk about both of these things on this channel. So thank you for stopping by. And in today's video, I want to highlight some of my favorite nonfiction books. So Nonfiction November is coming up. It's a readathon in November that encourages you to read nonfiction books. And I have always been a nonfiction book reader. I won't be able to participate this year just because we're moving and life is chaotic, but I do have some favorite nonfiction books that I would love to share with you. And the nonfiction genre is such a big, broad category that there's so much to choose from. I have favorite groups that I'm going to talk about today. So for instance, I love books about personality. I love books about science, which most of you know by now. I love books about parenting and memoirs. I have a few of those to share as well. And I will link all the info for the readathon for Nonfiction November below in case you want to participate. I think they usually say that as long as you read one nonfiction book, you have succeeded at the readathon. So anyway, here's what I have to share with you. I'm going to start with personality book. So I actually don't have a copy of this first one. It's called Road Back to You by Ian Cron, I think is how you say his last name. We've had 2 copies of this and we have given both copies away. This has been one of those books that I feel like has been so helpful for myself as well as other people. My husband and I picked up this book originally because we wanted to understand a little bit more about each other and be able to communicate better. And so I really recommend it as a marriage tool. It's been fantastic because it basically goes through the Enneagram, which I'm sure most people have heard about by now, and that there's 9 different types of people. And what I like about the Enneagram is it's motivation driven. So it's kind of like what causes you to make the decisions you make. I'm an Enneagram 9, a peacemaker, in case anybody's curious. So comment below with your Enneagram type if you want. Okay, the next personality book that I really like is about introvertedness. So this is called Quiet: The Power of Introverts in a World That Can't Stop Talking by Susan Cain. This is an excellent book, especially if you're an introvert, or if you're married to an introvert, or if you have close friends or children that are introverts. This is a fantastic book. It just really talks about the strengths of people who are introverted and what they can bring and how they can have confidence in what they have to offer. It's just a very encouraging book. It's actually fairly dense, but it's really good. So I really like this one in case you're interested in this topic. Next, I want to talk about science. So I've read a lot of different books on science, and I could recommend a lot of different books, but I think this one is one of my favorites. It's called The Hot Zone by Richard Preston. I picked this up in college, probably before I really went down the path of studying microbiology for a profession, and it just really sparked my interest. This is a nonfiction book about an Ebola outbreak in and around Washington, D.C. on a sample that had been shipped in from Africa. And it's a true story, and it's really good. There was a documentary recently that highlighted this book or used this book kind of as a jumping off point, and I cannot remember it for the life of me. So if I do, I'll put it down below. It really reads like a fiction book, but it wasn't. It actually happened. So if you haven't read this and you're at all interested in infectious disease, I know some people at this point in history are not, but some people are. And so I really like this book. I highly recommend this one. And then to segue a bit into science and faith, which if you've been on my channel for a while, you also know that I'm really interested in that. And so I read this book this past summer called 7 Days That Divide the World by John C. Lennox. And the subtitle is The Beginning According to Genesis and Science. And it's a really short book. So I feel like this is the one I recommend when anybody reaches out to me interested in this topic or wanting to learn more, because it's 5 different chapters. It starts pretty broadly where it talks just about, historically speaking, when has science and faith kind of clashed and how has that worked out? Has it been the worst thing ever? And no is the answer to that question. And how did that happen? And what do we think about that now? And then in light of current day kind of controversies, if you will, especially when you're talking kind of Genesis, so you're talking the age of the earth and different things like that. This book just packs a punch for being so small. And the author, I think, does an excellent job of just being humble in his approach. He could be wrong, but this is what he thinks is correct sort of stance, which I just really, really appreciate. So I like this book a lot. The next one is similar to that, which I haven't highlighted on this channel yet. Is called Finding God in the Waves: How I Lost My Faith and Found It Again Through Science. This is by Meeker. I'm not sure how to say his last name, but I've always referred to him as Science Mike because they have a podcast, and I can link that below as well. But that's initially where I heard about this book, and it's just really good. It talks about just our current culture, especially in America, of just science and faith kind of pushing against each other or being uncomfortable next to each other. And in this case, he was a man who grew up in the faith and then started to love science, started to teach science. He starts stumbling into like, what if this is all not true, and kind of has just a crisis of sorts. And then he comes back out of that in just a really beautiful way. His story is just really beautiful. It's encouraging for a lot of people, just as if you are struggling with science and faith or any of those things of interest. I found his story very inspiring, if you will, it's very honest. And I just really like that. It's a really good nonfiction to pick up if you are curious about that topic. And so I read a lot of parenting books. Obviously, I have young kids and I feel like I could use all the help I could get. And so one of my favorites has been this one. So this is called Strong Mothers, Strong Sons by Meeker. She has a podcast. I love her podcast. She also wrote Strong Fathers, Strong Daughters, something like that. And these are wonderful. It just talks about the impact you have on your kind of opposite gender children. It's fantastic about how you can support them, what they need from you. Like when you're talking mothers to sons, like you are your son's first love, and then they'll push you away and they want you to be pushed away so that they can come back to you. All of these things that are just so good to think about when it goes kind of against our natural instincts as like comforters and protectors and all of that. So this is a very good book. Very good. It's kind of stat heavy at the beginning, but I don't mind that as long as you know that ahead of time and that won't turn you off. I feel like the message is fantastic. So I highly recommend this or the other one as well, or really anything written by her. Next, I read this year and I really liked it. It's The 5 Love Languages of Children by Gary Chapman and Ross Campbell. I loved this book. It highlights just how to figure out how to love your children well in light of the fact that they are all different. They all receive and give love differently. And so it follows the classic 5 love languages books. The 5 love languages being words of affirmation, acts of service, receiving gifts, quality time, and physical touch. But it goes through it in a way that's like, how might this look in a 5-year-old? Or how can you figure out what your child's love language is so that you can love them best? Like it says that really you should be loving them in all 5 ways, but there's some ways that they're just going to respond very strongly to. And those are the ways you just want to make sure is in your repertoire of parenting so that they can really feel loved and grounded, and then you can parent them better. Then they're more receptive, if that makes sense. So I really, really liked this book. It was fantastic. And then to kind of come full circle on introvertedness, so this one's called Introverted Mom, Your Guide to More Calm, Less Guilt, and Quiet Joy by Jamie C. Martin. And this was a really encouraging book as well. This is told from a point of view of a mom who is an introvert and who had all her children really quickly, which is my story, and how it's like you could handle it at first and then suddenly like you just can't. There's so much noise, there's so much stimulation, there's so much need from your children, and that as an introvert that just sucks all your energy, and it's really hard if you just aren't aware of that, or if you're not tuned in to this is how it's affecting you. And so this book does a really good job of encouraging that, of teaching you maybe how to set boundaries for yourself, how to say what you need, how to like request things from your husband to help you out, things like that, and how to approach certain situations when you know that you're going to be tired and maybe strung out just because there's so much going on, and how you can be a better mom within all of that. So it's really good. I liked it a lot. As you can see, I like kind of self-help, but honestly, this just gives you a window into the things I'm most interested in, and everybody kind of has their own windows, so these might not be of interest to you, but some of them might. So I want to round this out with 2 memoirs that I'm in the process of reading or about to read. So I realize this isn't necessarily a recommendation as much as maybe like an exposure to 2 different books that you might not have heard of that might sound really good to you. So the first one's called The Beauty in Breaking by Michelle Harper. And so this is a memoir about an African-American woman who is an ER doctor. And she had recently split up with her husband and moved to like a new city, a new job. And it tells her life in the process of settling into a new job and settling into becoming divorced or separated from her husband and just healing from that, as well as she's just kind of seeped in a profession of brokenness and having to support her patients when she is not feeling very capable herself. And so it just sounds really, really good. I haven't gotten very far, but I have really liked it so far. So if you're looking for a good memoir. And then the other one, which I know some people could take or leave this, but I think she's a very inspirational woman. And this book is Becoming by Michelle Obama. This book tells the story of her childhood, of just college, meeting Barack Obama, and it also tells just their struggle with having children and infertility a bit. So it just makes her just feel very much like the girl next door, like that you could be just a friends with her, and she just has a lot of wisdom and just steadiness, I guess, about her. I'm not sure how to best describe that, but I am most excited to read this. I have not started this, but it is on my 5-star predictions list, and so I'm looking to get to this or make sure I get to this before the end of the year. So anyway, that's the last one. I have others that I could have shared, but I just kind of picked 4 categories that I wanted to share that I read probably the most from. And a whole other category that I really didn't want to bring into this because I made a whole separate video about it is homeschooling. So those are all nonfiction books. They're inspirational books for homeschooling moms. Wonderful books. I think I had like 15 of them. I can't quite remember, but I will link that above if you are interested in looking into any of those as good choices for a nonfiction book to pick up. So anyway, that is what I have for this video. I hope it has been helpful in encouraging you to pick up some nonfiction. Nonfiction doesn't always have to be kind of scary and deep and very academic. It can be memoirs, it can be parenting books, it can be homeschooling books. Thank you for stopping by. Please consider liking the video, subscribing to the channel if you like what you see, and otherwise, I will see you in the next book video. All right, have a wonderful day.